Effective communication skills. Chapter 1, Introduction. 1.1 The importance of communication. If you can communicate well, you can get your message across to others in an effective way, and they then have accurate instructions to complete their assigned tasks. If you are not able to communicate well, the messages you send get lost in translation. Communication breakdowns result in barriers against your ability to develop both professionally and personally. Even though communication skills are so important to success in the workplace, there are many individuals who find these skills to be a stumbling block to their progress. They struggle to convey their thoughts and ideas in an accurate manner, making it difficult to progress and nearly impossible to lead well. However, there is hope for anyone who finds communicating to be difficult. These skills can be practiced and learned. It takes learning about how communication works, how to communicate exactly what it is you want to say, what mode of communication is best, and what factors are influencing the ability for you to send and receive messages with acumen. 1.2 What is communication? When asked to define communication, how would you respond? Most people will relate to the forms of communication talking or listening. But communication goes beyond that. Communication involves getting information from one person to another person. Yet even this is not a complete definition, because communicating effectively involves having that information relayed while retaining the same content and context. If I tell you one thing and you hear another, have I communicated? 1.3 What are communication skills? Imagine you are on one side of a wall and the person you want to communicate with is on the other side of the wall. But there's more than the wall in the way. The wall is surrounded by a moat that is filled with crocodiles and edged by quicksand. These barriers could be things like different cultures, different expectations, different experiences, different perspectives, or different communication styles, to name just a few. Communication skills are the tools that we use to remove the barriers to effective communication. You might experience only one of these barriers at a time, or you might find yourself facing them all. Getting your message to the other person requires that you recognize these barriers exist between you, and that you then apply the proper tools, or communication skills, to remove those barriers preventing your message from getting through. Of course, communication is a two-way street. The person on the other side of those barriers will also try to send messages back to you. Your ability to understand them clearly could be left to a dependence on their ability to use communication skills. But that's leaving the success of the communication to chance. Instead, you can also use your own communication skills to ensure that you receive messages clearly as well. Finally, there isn't only one point in your communication with another person at which you have to watch out for barriers. To be successful at communicating, it's important to recognize that these barriers to communication can occur at multiple points in the communication process. 1.4 The communication process. The communication process involves multiple parts and stages. These are source, message, encoding, channel, decoding, receiver, feedback, context. At each of these stages, there is the potential for barriers to be formed or problems to arise. As we look at ways to limit the barriers to communicating effectively, remember that you may have to apply them at more than one occasion during your communications process. The steps in the process are represented in Figure 1 and explained further in the following information. 1.4.1 Source. The source of the communication is the sender, or for our purposes, you. In order to be a good source, you need to be clear about the message that you are sending. Do you know exactly what it is that you want to communicate? You'll also want to be sure you know why it is that you are communicating. What result is it that you expect? If you cannot answer these questions, you will be starting the communication process with a high chance of failure. The source of the message is the sender. The sender must know why the communication is necessary and what result is needed. 1.4.2 Message. The message is simply the information that you want to communicate. Without a message, there is no cause for communicating. If you cannot summarize the information that you need to share, you aren't ready to begin the process of communication. 1.4.3 Encoding. Encoding is the process of taking your message and transferring it into a format that can be shared with another party. It's sort of like how messages are sent via a fax. The information on the paper has to be encoded or prepared before it can be sent to the other party. It has to be sent in a format that the other party has the ability to decode, or the message will not be delivered. In order to encode a message properly, you have to think about what the other person will need in order to understand, or decode, the message. Are you sharing all the information that is necessary to get the full picture? Have you made assumptions that may not be correct? Are you using the best form of sending it in order to ensure the best chance of the message being properly received? Are there cultural, environmental, or language differences between you and the other party that could cause miscommunication? Encoding is the process of taking your message and transferring it into the proper format for sharing it with your audience. It requires knowing your audience and ensuring that your message provides all of the information that they need. Of course, to encode a message properly, you have to know who your audience is. You need to have an understanding of what they know, and what they need to know in order to send a complete message. You need to use language they will understand and a context that is familiar. One simple example of how you can do this is being sure to spell out acronyms. We sometimes forget that not everyone is familiar with the acronyms that we may use on a regular basis. 1.4.4 Channel. The channel is the method or methods that you use to convey your message. The type of message you have will help to determine the channel that you should use. Channels include face-to-face conversations, telephone calls or video conferences, and written communication like emails and memos. The channel is the method of communication that you choose, such as face-to-face, by telephone, or via email. Each channel has its advantages and disadvantages. For example, you will find it difficult to give complex, technical information or instructions by using just the telephone. Or you may get bad results if you try to give criticism via email. 1.4.5 Decoding. Decoding happens when you receive the message that has been sent. The communication skills required to decode a message successfully include the ability to read and comprehend, listen actively, or ask clarifying questions when needed. Decoding is the process of receiving the message accurately and requires that your audience has the means to understand the information you are sharing. If the person you are attempting to communicate with seems to be lacking the skills to decode your message, you will need to either resend it in a different way or assist them in understanding it by supplying clarifying information. 1.4.6 Receiver. Since you have thought out your message, you've certainly also thought about what you want the desired result to be on the part of your listener. But it's important to realize that each person that receives your message will be listening to it through their own individual expectations, opinions, and perspectives. Their individual experiences will influence how your message is received. You have expectations for response from the receiver when you send a message. You can increase the chances of getting this result by addressing your audience's concerns or addressing specific benefits as part of your communication. While you can't always address each person's individual concerns in a message, part of planning for your communication is to think ahead of time about what some of their thoughts or experiences might be. For example, if you are releasing a new product and want to convince customers to try it, you would want to be certain to address the specific benefits to the customer, or what improvements have been made since the last version was released. 1.4.7 Feedback. No matter what channel you have used to convey your message, you can use feedback to help determine how successful your communication was. If you are face-to-face with your audience, you can read body language and ask questions to ensure understanding. If you have communicated via writing, you can gauge the success of your communication by the response that you get or by seeing if the result you wanted is delivered. Feedback lets you gauge how successful you were at communicating. It also offers a chance to adjust your communication process for the future. In any case, feedback is invaluable for helping you to improve your communication skills. You can learn what worked well and what didn't so that you can be even more efficient the next time you communicate with that person, or the next time you need to communicate a similar message. 1.4.8 Context. The context is the situation in which you are communicating. It involves the environment that you are in and that in which your audience is in, the culture of your organizations, and elements such as the relationship between you and your audience. Your communication process will not look the same when you are communicating with your boss, as it will when you are communicating with a friend. The context helps determine the tone and style of your communication. Context involves things such as your relationship with your audience, the culture of your organization, and your general environment.
Chapter 2: Perspectives in Communication. 2.1 Introduction. We all come to each communication exchange with our own filter through which we see the world, the person we are communicating with, and the situation or topic we are communicating about. These filters mean that we don't always start with the same perspective as the person we are communicating with. Our individual perceptions are the filter through which we communicate with others. 2.2 Visual perception. These filters can be visual, as in the famous example in Figure 2. What do you see when you look at the picture? A young woman or an old crone? Both perspectives are possible and both are valid. 2.3 Language. The different perspectives we experience can be with language as well. How many times have you received an email that seemed to have a certain tone to it, and that perception of tone colored the way that you might have responded? The same words can have very different meanings depending on how we interpret them. Here's another example. What is the meaning of the following phrase? A woman without her man is nothing. Sounds pretty bad at first glance, doesn't it? Look again. If you add punctuation or change the word emphasis, how does the meaning change? A woman without her man is nothing. The words were the same in both cases, but the meaning has now changed completely. So although we think our meaning may be clear when we use specific words in a certain order, we can't always be certain that the other person will read or hear them in that way. 2.4 Other factors affecting our perspective. There are a multitude of other factors that can affect our perspective, thereby affecting how we communicate with another person. Some of these factors come from our past experiences, our prejudices, our feelings, and our environment. Some of these will be discussed in greater detail in later chapters. 2.4.1 Past experiences. Imagine that you are in a meeting where you will be discussing changes in your personnel policies at work. What will you be bringing to that conversation? You might have examples of other companies' personnel policies. You might have examples from your own time in the company that demonstrate why you feel that certain changes might need to be made. Or you might come to the table empty-handed, with just a pad of paper and a pen in order to take notes. What influences you to do any of these things? Your past experience. You would bring outside information because you have learned in the past that comparing situations can be helpful in decision-making. You bring examples of your own experience because you have learned in the past that examples can be powerful ways to make your case. Or you come to the table empty-handed because in the past you have felt that your input wasn't valued, or you have no past experience in this topic and so you are a clean slate information-wise. In every one of these situations, your communication is being affected by your past experience. You enter a situation, a meeting, or a conversation with certain expectations of what will happen in that scenario, and you behave accordingly. 2.4.2 Prejudices. Your prejudices can also affect your communication. Imagine that you are called to a meeting to discuss the recent promotion of someone that you don't get along with. Your prejudice against that person might cause you to be less willing to accept their ideas, or you might feel the need to challenge them more than you would someone else. Recognizing that you have these feelings and working to set them aside can help you to communicate more effectively. 2.4.3 Feelings. Your current feelings can also influence how you communicate. If you are feeling particularly stressed or angry, you might be more likely to misinterpret the words or actions of others, or you might respond in a way that is more aggressive than you intended. Being aware of your current emotional state and how it might be affecting your communication can help you to manage your responses more effectively. 2.4.4 Environment. The environment in which you are communicating can also have an impact. For example, if you are trying to have a serious conversation in a noisy or chaotic environment, you might find it difficult to concentrate and might miss important details. Choosing an appropriate setting for your communication can help to ensure that you are able to focus and communicate effectively.
Chapter 3: Elements of Communication. 3.1 Introduction. What does it take to communicate with another person? How are we communicating even when we aren't using words? When you begin studying communication, you'll find that we communicate with much more than our words. In face-to-face communication, our words are only part of the message. The balance of the message, and in fact, the largest part of the message that we are sending to others, is made up of nonverbal information. It is composed of our body language and our tone of voice. Figure 5 below demonstrates this fact. 3.2 Face-to-face communication. Albert Mehrabian's work on verbal and nonverbal communication in the 1960s and early 1970s is still considered a valid model today. He posed that the nonverbal aspects of communication, such as tone of voice and nonverbal gestures, communicate a great deal more than the words that are spoken. He also found that people are more likely to believe your nonverbal communication than your verbal communication if the two are contradictory. In other words, you are most believable and most effectively communicating when all three elements of face-to-face communication are aligned with each other. Over half of the information we send to others is through nonverbal methods. 3.2.1 Tone of voice. According to Mehrabian, the tone of voice we use is responsible for about 35 to 40% of the message we are sending. Tone involves the volume you use, the level and type of emotion that you communicate, and the emphasis that you place on the words that you choose. To see how this works, try saying the sentences in Figure 6 with the emphasis each time on the word in bold. I didn't say he borrowed my book. 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 3.2.2 Body language. Body language is a useful tool that you can learn to use. You can mimic another's body language when you want to express support for them. You can use a person's body language to realize that your message is incomplete, there is more to say, or there are questions to be answered. When you are in a situation where you want to convey your support of another person, you can intentionally mimic their body language. If you are standing in the hallway and they lean to one side, mirror their action. If they sit back and relax, do the same. You are sending subconscious signals that you are on their side, even if the topic that you are discussing is one where there may be disagreement. It reaffirms that you are part of the same team, no matter what else might be going on. You can also use this tool to gauge whether or not others are buying in on what you are saying. Are they using words that express agreement, but sitting all wound up with crossed arms and legs? Unless they just happen to be cold, chances are that there is some matter still unresolved in their mind. You can use this signal as information to you that you still need to do some explaining or ask some additional questions. 3.2.3 Verbal communication. The third communication element is verbal communication. Believe it or not, it is actually the least impactful element in face-to-face communication. The old adage is true: it's not what you say, it's how you say it that counts. Of course, this is a bit simplified. We do want to use verbal communications, the words we choose, to our best advantage. You would definitely make a different impression if you curse during your presentation than if you don't. Choosing our words carefully is a way to enhance our message, but we should remember that it is not the most important part of the message. We should not neglect to pay attention to the other nonverbal elements. But what about when we are limited to using only verbal communication? Given that we know that face-to-face communication delivers the most complete message, we know that verbal communication alone can be challenging in creating effective communication. You might think that talking on the telephone or sending off a quick email is an excellent time saver. There are times when this is true. For example, when confirming specific facts or asking simple questions. But for many communication needs, verbal communication only is rarely going to suffice. 3.3 Physical communication. Physical communication includes all the nonverbal ways you communicate with others, including body language, facial expressions, and gestures. It also includes the physical distance between you and the person you are communicating with, which can influence how your message is received.
Chapter 4, Communication Styles 4.1 Introduction. Each one of us has a style of communicating that is unique. Some of us are talkative and extroverted, while others are quiet and reserved. Some of us are outspoken, while others are less likely to share their opinions in public. Still, others of us are formal and direct, while others are informal and like to take our time getting to the main point. So how do these different styles of communication impact us in the workplace? Communication style refers to the choices we tend to make when communicating with others. It involves two basic dimensions, the assertiveness level of our communication and the emotiveness level of our communication. We also use different styles depending on with whom we are communicating. Differences in communication style can lead to barriers in communication success. When you work with someone who has a decidedly different communication style from your own, that difference can act as one of the barriers to effective communication. You may feel that someone is being aloof and cold while they feel that they are being quick and businesslike. Or you might feel that someone is being too analytical and detailed, while they feel that you aren't recognizing the importance of the small things that can make a big difference. There is a way to overcome these differences, however. It involves learning the basic characteristics of the different communication styles and how they influence the context in which your communication is happening. If you can learn to understand the other person's communication style and how it is manifesting itself in the way they communicate, you are learning your audience and what they need in order to understand your message. You can then encode your message in a way that they will be more likely to be able to decode it, thereby increasing the chance that your message will be delivered successfully. To put it another way, imagine that you are in a foreign country. You can stumble about, using your own words for things and trying to communicate, with the result being that one or both parties may become frustrated, and with very little chance that you will get the result that you want. But if you can speak the language of the person you want to speak with, suddenly you can communicate. You can ask for what you need, give them the information they need, and hopefully achieve the result that is the original aim of your message. When you employ this communication tool, you simply make the choice to communicate to your audience in their native tongue. 4.2 The Communication Styles Matrix. The Communication Styles Matrix helps us understand the differences in communication styles. It is based on two dimensions, assertiveness and emotiveness. Assertiveness is the degree to which a person is likely to be forceful and directive in their communication. Emotiveness is the degree to which a person is likely to display emotion in their communication. The matrix is divided into 4 quadrants, each representing a different communication style. 1. Direct style, high assertiveness and low emotiveness. People with this style are straightforward, to the point, and often task-focused. 2. Spirited style, high assertiveness and high emotiveness. These individuals are energetic, enthusiastic, and often persuasive. 3. Considerate style, low assertiveness and high emotiveness. People with this style are empathetic, good listeners, and often relationship-focused. 4. Systematic style, low assertiveness and low emotiveness. These individuals are analytical, methodical, and often detail-oriented. Figure 16. The Communication Styles Matrix. Each style has its strengths and potential pitfalls. Understanding your own style and the styles of others can help you communicate more effectively. 4.3 Examples of communication for each style. It will take some time and practice to learn exactly what will work in communicating with the people in your work group. Hopefully, you recognize the people in your office in the descriptions of the different communication styles in the last section. If not, you can pay more attention to how they communicate with you as a sign of their main communication style. Remember too that not everyone fits neatly into a category. Some people will bridge more than one style, depending on with whom they are communicating. You may need to do some experimenting to determine which communication style works best with them. It will also take practice for you to become comfortable in altering your own communication style or methods in order to best communicate with others. You will still be inclined to your natural communication style, which is to be expected. It will also be easier to do at first when you have the time to think about your communication ahead of time, such as when writing an email. However, over time, you will find that you can adjust faster and employ the tools that you need without thinking it out ahead of time. 4.3.1 Direct Style. When communicating with someone who has the direct communication style, the key is to get to the main point of your communication as soon as possible, and to do so in as efficient a manner as possible. The first example below shows the type of communication that will not work with someone who has a direct communication style. In this example, Jane is the one with the direct communication style. Example of poor communication with a direct style. Hi Jane. I heard from Alex that you landed a new large business account yesterday. He said that you did an excellent job in explaining the company's benefits to the customer and that you were very professional. Alex also said that the customer asked for a quote on a new phone system for his existing offices. Have you thought about how you will proceed? Let me know if I can help you get the quote together or if you need any ideas on the configuration. I'd like to get the quote to them later this week if you think you can manage it. That way we would have a good chance of getting the order in for this month's numbers. Thanks again, and hope you are having a good Tuesday so far. Anne. What is the main point of the communication? What is the requested action? How much of the communication is superfluous information? A person with a direct communication style will not necessarily glean what you want them to do or by when. They will appreciate the accolade, but they won't appreciate the personal references or information. Example of effective communication with a direct style. Jane. Great job on the new account. I'd like to meet for 10 to 15 minutes tomorrow to discuss strategy and timing. Please let me know if you'd prefer to meet at 1 o'clock, 1:30, or 2 p.m. Anne. The second example cuts to the chase, gets to the main point, and is much more likely to be well received by someone with a direct communication style. 4.3.2 Spirited Style. When communicating with someone who has a spirited communication style, it is important to match their energy and enthusiasm. They appreciate creativity and excitement in communication. Example of poor communication with a spirited style. Hi, Tom. Please review the attached report and provide your feedback by Friday. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Sue. This message is too dry and lacks the energy that someone with a spirited style appreciates. Example of effective communication with a spirited style. Hey, Tom. I've attached the latest report and would love to get your thoughts on it. I'm super excited about the new ideas we've included and can't wait to hear what you think. Let's chat about it over coffee on Friday. Cheers. Sue. This message matches the spirited style's energy and enthusiasm and is more likely to engage the recipient. 4.3.3 Considerate Style. When communicating with someone who has a considerate communication style, it is important to be empathetic and supportive. They value relationships and appreciate a personal touch. Example of poor communication with a considerate style. Hi, Mark. We need to finish the project by the end of the week. please prioritize this task and get it done as soon as possible. Thanks, Linda. This message is too direct and may come across as insensitive to someone with a considerate style. Example of effective communication with a considerate style. Hi, Mark. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to touch base about the project we're working on. It's important that we finish it by the end of the week. I know you've been working hard, and your effort is greatly appreciated. If there's anything you need or if you have any concerns, please let me know. We're all in this together. Best, Linda. This message shows empathy and support, which is more in line with the considerate communication style. 4.3.4 Systematic style. When communicating with someone who has a systematic communication style, it is important to be detailed and organized. They appreciate clear, logical communication. Example of poor communication with a systematic style. Hi, Sarah. Can you handle the budget report? Thanks, John. This message lacks detail and clarity and may frustrate someone with a systematic style. Example of effective communication with a systematic style. Hi, Sarah. I hope you're doing well. I need your help with the budget report. Here are the details. 1. Review the expenses for the last quarter. 2. Identify any discrepancies. 3. Provide a summary of findings by Friday. Please let me know if you have any questions or need further information. Thanks, John. This message provides clear instructions and details, which is more in line with the systematic communication style. Conclusion. Understanding and adapting to different communication styles can greatly enhance your ability to communicate effectively with others. By recognizing the preferences and needs of your audience, you can tailor your communication to ensure that your message is received and understood as intended.
Chapter 5, Basic Listening Skills 5.1 Introduction. Good listeners are rare these days. Studies have shown that most listeners retain less than 50% of what they hear. Imagine what that means when it comes to a conversation that you might have with your boss, a colleague, or a customer. If you speak for 10 minutes, chances are that you have only heard about half of that conversation, and so have they. No wonder miscommunications happen so frequently. Yet listening is one of the most vital skills that you need if you want to communicate effectively. Listening allows you to decode the messages that you are receiving, but it also allows you to help others communicate better. When you aren't certain of the message that you have heard the first time, listening well allows you to ask the questions that will clarify the message. Of course, listening is important in more arenas than in the workplace. We listen for multiple reasons. To build relationships. To understand others. To be entertained. To learn. To show empathy. To gather information. With as much as listening can do for us, it's obvious that we can all benefit from improving our listening skills. We can become more productive at work, more connected in our relationships, and more efficient in everything that we do. But listening also helps us to persuade and negotiate with others. It can help us avoid misunderstandings, and can just make life more conflict-free in general. All of these are very good reasons for learning more about how to be a better listener. 5.2 Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the first step in improving your listening skills. It involves recognizing your own biases and preconceived notions, as well as being aware of how your own emotions and state of mind can affect your listening. By being aware of these factors, you can better control them and improve your ability to listen effectively. Here are some tips for improving self-awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings as you listen. Are you judging the speaker? Are you thinking about what you will say next? Notice your body language. Are you fidgeting or showing signs of impatience? Reflect on past conversations. Were there times when you misunderstood the speaker? What could you have done differently? 5.3 Active listening. Active listening is a technique that requires you to fully concentrate, understand, respond, and then remember what is being said. It involves more than just hearing the words, it involves processing the information and engaging with the speaker. To practice active listening, follow these steps. 1. Pay attention, give the speaker your undivided attention. Avoid distractions like checking your phone or thinking about other things. 2. Show that you're listening, use body language and gestures to show that you are engaged. Nod occasionally, smile, and use other facial expressions. 3. Provide feedback, reflect on what has been said by paraphrasing. What I'm hearing is, or it sounds like you are saying. 4. Defer judgment, allow the speaker to finish before you offer your own thoughts. Don't interrupt or impose your solutions. 5. Respond appropriately, be candid, open, and honest in your response. Assert your opinions respectfully. 5.3 Becoming an active listener. Becoming an active listener takes practice. Here are some strategies to help you develop this skill. Use reflective listening. This involves repeating back what the speaker has said to show that you understand. For example, so what you're saying is. Ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, ask the speaker to clarify. This shows that you are paying attention and want to understand fully. Summarize the conversation. At the end of the conversation, summarize what has been said. This helps reinforce the information and ensures that you have understood correctly. Avoid interrupting. Let the speaker finish their thoughts before you respond. Interrupting can cause misunderstandings and shows a lack of respect for the speaker's ideas. 5.4 Listening in difficult situations. Listening can be particularly challenging in heated or emotionally charged situations. Here are some tips to help you listen effectively in these situations. Move to a private location. If possible, suggest moving the discussion to a private, quiet place with no distractions. Agree on a goal. Start by agreeing on what the goal of the discussion is. This helps keep the conversation focused and productive. Set ground rules. Agree on ground rules for the discussion, such as no interrupting, keeping voices down, and avoiding personal attacks. Use active listening techniques. Remind yourself of the active listening guidelines and practice them, even if it's difficult. Stay calm, breathe slowly and stay calm. If you feel yourself getting emotional, take a moment to compose yourself before responding. Repeat the speaker's words. If you are having trouble paying attention, repeat the speaker's words in your mind. This helps reinforce the message. Conclusion. Improving your listening skills can have a profound impact on your ability to communicate effectively. By practicing self-awareness and active listening, and by using specific strategies in difficult situations, you can become a better listener and a more effective communicator. Remember, listening is not just about hearing words, it's about understanding the message behind those words and engaging with the speaker. By improving your listening skills, you can build stronger relationships, avoid misunderstandings, and create a more positive and productive environment in both your personal and professional life.
Chapter 6: Effective Written Communication. 6.1 Introduction. In today's world of rapid-fast communication via texts and emails, most of us would rather shoot off a written message than make a phone call. It's fast, efficient when used properly, and it provides a nice document trail for our work records. Written communication is more important than ever, yet very few people know when writing is the right, or wrong, form of communication, and fewer still can write well. Of course, like all other communication skills, good writing skills can be learned. 6.2 When and when not to use written communication. Sure, sending an email is easy. How many of us haven't written one while on hold with another call or in those few moments between one meeting and the next? Texts are even easier and let you send information from virtually anywhere. Yet when is written communication most effective, and when is it not? There are a number of factors that can help you make that choice. 6.2.1 Complexity of the topic. Using written communication is an excellent choice for sharing information that is easily organized and easily understood by the independent reader. This means that the reader can read the communication and get the message clearly without additional information from you or other sources. Meeting notices, answers to quick questions, or quick clarifications are all easy to complete with written communication. However, there is a point at which written communication becomes inefficient for one of several reasons. The information may be too complex to organize in a manner that will be intelligible to your reader without further assistance. The amount of explanation required to make the information intelligible might be cumbersome, leading to misinterpretation or lack of understanding. In the long run, you'll end up answering so many follow-up emails or phone calls that in these cases you would have been better off having a face-to-face meeting or in a formal training session. 6.2.2 Amount of discussion required. If the topic is complex or involved enough that there will need to be a long exchange of discussion-type emails, the longer you allow the exchange to continue in writing, the more you are risking that someone will misunderstand. Furthermore, you can't be assured that everyone who received the email has actually had the chance to participate in the discussion unless you are able to track the receipt of others' emails or require everyone to respond one way or the other. Therefore, decision-making, long, involved explanations or conversations, or controversial subjects are not usually good topics for written communication. 6.2.3 Shades of Meaning. We've learned from previous information in this ebook that nonverbal communication is the most important form of communication in getting your message delivered. When you are writing, you are left to the small portion of communication that is possible through words alone in getting your message through to your reader. So the more intense the emotions around a topic or the more important the message is, the less likely writing will be a successful form of communicating. For example, it can be difficult to convey tone of voice, humor, sarcasm, or other shades of meaning in writing alone. Don't risk offending someone or causing confusion by someone not understanding your true meaning by trusting written communication with the task of conveying highly emotional or important information. 6.3.4 Organization of the message. Perhaps your communication has more than one request or call to action. If the actions are unrelated to each other, the best choice is to send a separate email for each one. That requires your reader to see each topic in the subject line and then to respond accordingly. However, you might have situations where you have several requests or several important facts for the reader. In that case, you need to organize the information in a way that increases the chance that the reader will give you all of the information or take all of the actions that you request. You can do this by using topic headings that still put the main topic of the communication at the top, such as response needed, background, concerns, or RSVP requested, instructions, directions, FAQs. You could also use bullets or numbers for each subtopic. Or consider using bold or colored font to highlight requested actions. One word of caution: avoid using all capital letters, which can be interpreted as yelling. Your job is to make it easy and foolproof for your reader to get your message. Use whatever tools you can employ to ensure that the message is delivered fully, as long as they are still professional and appropriate for your audience.
Chapter 7, Resources. 7.1 Introduction. In this chapter, we will provide you with various resources that you can use to further enhance your communication skills. These resources include books, articles, websites, and tools that can help you develop and refine your communication abilities. 7.2 Books. Books are an excellent way to gain in-depth knowledge about communication skills. Here are some highly recommended books on the topic. 1. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This classic book offers timeless advice on how to improve your communication skills and build better relationships. 2. Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High by Kerry Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Ol Switzler. This book provides practical tools and techniques for handling difficult conversations effectively. 3. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. This bestseller includes valuable insights on how to communicate effectively as part of personal and professional development. 4. Talk Like TED, The 9 Public Speaking Secrets of the World's Top Minds by Carmine Gallo. This book reveals the secrets behind successful TED Talks and how you can apply these principles to your own presentations. 7.6 Tips for Continued Improvement. Improving your communication skills is an ongoing process. Here are some tips to help you continue developing your abilities. 1. Practice regularly. Like any skill, communication improves with regular practice. Make an effort to engage in conversations, write frequently, and seek out public speaking opportunities. 2. Seek feedback. Ask for feedback from peers, mentors, like experts on AussieMentors.com, or supervisors to identify areas for improvement and to gain different perspectives on your communication style. 3. Reflect on your experiences. Take time to reflect on your communication experiences, both successful and challenging ones. Analyze what worked well and what could be improved. 4. Stay informed. Keep up with the latest trends and research in communication by reading articles, attending webinars, and participating in professional development opportunities. 5. Join a community. Join professional organizations or online communities focused on communication skills to connect with like-minded individuals and share best practices. Conclusion. Effective communication is a vital skill that can be continuously improved through the use of various resources. By reading books, exploring online articles, taking courses, and using tools and applications, you can enhance your ability to communicate effectively in both personal and professional settings. Remember to practice regularly, seek feedback, and stay informed to keep your communication skills sharp and effective. Thank you, and remember this audiobook from AussieMentors.com.